Brighton secure a comfortable 3-0 victory at the Amex Stadium against Chelsea in the Premier League. The Seagulls opened the scoring in the first half as Mitoma scored one of the goals of the season, taking a long ball from Verbruggen under control before darting past Chalobah and firing into the bottom corner. Shortly after, Brighton, who produced 1.7 expected goals in the game, doubled their lead as Minte was found in the box by Welbeck and he evaded the challenge of Cucurella before finding the back of the net from close range. After the break, Chelsea enjoyed more of the possession, but they couldn't find a way through. It was Hursl's side who found the third and final goal of the game, as Welbeck once again picked out Minte, who struck towards the near corner, seeing his shot deflect off Chalobah and fly beyond Jorgensen. It was a disappointing display from Chelsea, who created just 0.57 expected goals throughout, and they will need to bounce back away to Aston Villa next weekend. Up next for Brighton is a trip to Southampton in the Premier League. They're loving it at the Amex, and why not? 2 wins over Chelsea in a week. They knocked them out of the FA Cup just, 6 days ago? And today they take all 3 points away. And what's amazing is that 2 weeks ago, Brighton lost 7-0 to Nottingham Forest. Football is bizarre. Today they beat Chelsea very comfortably. Explain. Well, obviously they learned a lot from that loss to Nottingham Forest. They had key players missing. I think Balabat, Rob, obviously you've spoken really highly of him. And I think that's been the key to everything. What I would say is that when you look at this Brighton team, they did nothing different than when they beat Chelsea 2-1. They didn't have to do anything different. And I think the concerning thing for me, when you look at this Chelsea team, is that I think that was probably one of Brighton's easiest games of the season. Defenders weren't moved out of position, they weren't stretched, they weren't asked questions of, and it just looked like a Chelsea team that were just disjointed, ill-disciplined on and off the ball. And yes, okay, the innocence of youth can have part to play in that, but they just looked as though they didn't even look like a team out there. Robbie, that's unforgivable, isn't it? If the first game you get knocked out of the FA Cup and then the second game you know exactly what you're going to come up against and you do nothing at all to force them to change, they were the perfect date for Brighton on Valentine's Day. And when I look at performance, Bex, of all the times I've seen Chelsea this season, that's as bad as it gets. No shots on target with that amount of possession in this team. For all the money they've spent, Bex, there's still holes in this squad of areas that need improving. But forget that. Let's look at Brighton, a talented group of players who play as a team. Chelsea are a talented group of players, full stop. At the moment, they're not playing like a team. And in the central areas of pitch, where I used to play, where I used to think that's where the game is won, that's where the energy comes from, they lacked energy, they lacked drive, they lacked intensity, they lacked leadership. All those things that should be a given. Forget your ability, forget if you're a world-class player and you can bend the ball in from 30, energy, intensity, duels, they lost all those in a game against a Brighton team that, as Danny said, that's probably about as easy a game as Brighton are going to have on a Friday night, and they can have a great weekend. Danny, are you losing faith in Enzo Maresca? I think if you look at what the team did earlier in the season, I think there is an argument to say yes. I think my concern is I look at this group of players and I'm not convinced that they know what they're supposed to do. So they're just doing their own thing. We look at Minto, who was wonderful for Brighton, but look at the players that got around them. Veltman, Welbeck, Webster, experience. You can have some of the best youngsters in the world, but if you don't have experience around you, situations like this are going to occur. Slight word from Maresca. This time last year, he was manager of Leicester. Things started to go wrong very badly. They were 14 points clear. They ended up with 1 point winning the title last season. So there could be a bit of history that he's just got to address things in that dressing room quickly. And just very quickly, they finished 6th last season under Maurizio Pochettino. He left 6th this season. He goes. Yeah, I think he needs Champions League football. I think 6th keeps him in a job. I think anything beyond 6th, I think he goes.